Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for taking a little time today to do another one of these brief Teams talks. Today I wanted to do something a little bit more specific about a resource we have access to, which is the Merck Manual search widget. And I think I might have done a video where I talked a little bit about that as part of our research guide, but I wanted to show some more just kind of specific things that I thought could be useful either for study or for faculty if they want to use figures or images or even audio or video or procedure videos, all kinds of stuff that you could use for your lectures. So I thought that might be useful. And like I usually do, I try to start out and say how you can find this. So if you go to the LUCOM library page and you scroll down to databases and find research guides, that opens up our LibGuide, which we build with all of our electronic resources. And we embedded a widget down here for Merck Manual. And this is pretty cool. My mom was an RN and we always had a Merck Manual on the shelf when I was growing up. But this is a widget that they've built that connects to their site that has a professional and consumer edition. You can search directly from this widget if you just select whichever radio button you want to use here, and you can search directly within that. But this is clickable, this Merck Manual's link here. So if you click on that, it'll open up the Merck Manual page and you'll have to choose professional, consumer. They also have veterinary, but if we choose professional, it takes us to the site that is built with all of our sort of a clinical point of care reference tool, but this is actually free to us. We don't actually pay for this resource. They make this freely available to hospitals and medical schools and stuff. And some of the things I wanted to point out were figures, images, video, even audio, and some clinical calculators that could be used. I can see how these could be used for like biochemistry stuff, illustrations, or PCM, some of that, maybe more clinical stuff with the clinical calculators or procedure videos. But you'll see there's quick links over here to clinical calculators that I'm going to show, procedure and exam videos and other resources. But I'm mostly going to look at this. If you look at the menu bar across the top, you see home, medical topics, and resources. So if I click on resources, I can go to figures that they have, and there's over 300 of them here. I think there's like 313. Takes a second. Yeah. So, and some of them are organized by disorder. So there's cardiovascular disorders, clinical pharmacology, critical care, dermatologic disorders, ear, nose, and throat disorders. But some of them are also, I think, normal systems. Of course, these are GI disorders, but OBGYN, hematology, and oncology. But mostly it's organized by disorders. And so you can get an idea. This is more like the kind of figure you might find in like a required textbook. So if I'm looking like at deep veins of the leg, it's going to pull up a figure eventually that I could use. You can see it's like an illustration, maybe from like kind of a Gilroy Atlas of Anatomy kind of thing from TEMA. But there's a ton of these here based on cardiovascular, clinical pharmacology, derm disorders, all kinds of stuff. But that's more, again, more almost kind of like illustrations or figures that could be used, and you could put these into your PowerPoints. If we're looking for more clinical types of images that could be used, if you click under figure on resources, under figures, you'll find images here. And I might need to do that again. And these are going to be more like radiological images, clinical images. One of the ones I was looking at was again, they're organized by like system or disorder. So there's like cardiovascular disorders. So if I look at, say, an abdominal aortic aneurysm, it's going to give me an actual clinical ultrasound of what that looks like. So you could, again, and it's got related down here, abdominal aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm. So these are like clinical. There's still some here that kind of look like a figure from a textbook, but a lot of these are going to be more, there's aortic regurgitation, or excuse me, aortic dissection, more clinical images that you could use. This again could be for students for studying or for using in like a PowerPoint of a lecture. I will say that if you were to use any of these images, figures, images, any of this stuff, there's not really a built-in method for exporting that, I don't think, into your PowerPoint. So if you do save a figure or an image or anything like that and put it into a PowerPoint, just make attribution. I don't think it would be a big deal to say, access here at Merck Manual, maybe the URL or something like that. Because
yeah, they definitely it makes it hard. I was pulling up just one of the EKGs, Rob, and you have to jump through a few hoops to get it shared or downloaded.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's, this is a free resource. They don't have a lot of the same functionality built in like Clinical Key or McGraw-Hill's Access Medicine might have, or even, LWW or Ovid. But still, it's pretty cool for a free resource. Something I think is really neat, and I don't know if there's going to be any audio with this, but on resources, there's videos, and there's actually recordings of like ultrasounds and stuff. So like this aortic stenosis, it's actually got, I guess there's not much sound with that. But you can actually see what it looks like under ultrasound. It's kind of neat. If you're looking for, I know in the past, Dr. Pettit and the folks down in the sim lab were looking for, and there's videos for cardiovascular, critical care, pretty much all the disorders. There's not as many videos as there are images and figures, but still, it's pretty cool. But I know in the past, like Dr. Pettit and some of the folks down in the sim lab were looking for sounds for students to study for, like when they're trying to figure out what the thing that pops to mind is like heart sounds, like what they sound like. But so if you actually click on resources and go to audio here, and I don't know if I shared this, if you'll have to tell me if you can hear it. But they have the different, so like here's aortic regurgitation. Can you guys hear this?
No.
Okay, I don't know if I shared this correctly. In Teams, there's something where you have to, well, I don't want to waste time trying to figure out how to share the audio, but there's all kinds of sounds that students can study here. There's heart murmurs, stenosis murmur, Flint murmur, and that's just the cardiovascular stuff. There's GI disorders, infectious diseases. I'm not sure what crackle is. I know what Strider is, but pulmonary disorders. So it's kind of cool. Like if you're actually trying to get students to help them recognize what certain things sound like. It looks like the biggest collection they have are cardiovascular disorders, but you can see they have 45 audio recordings. Something I wanted to show too was videos. I think I might have showed this already, but there's procedure videos. So like, for example, like we saw there was like a video of an ultrasound of a aortic stenosis, but if you go down, let's see if I can find, there was dermatological, how to drain a I'm not sure how you say this, subungual hematoma? Is that?
Subungual.
Subungual? Okay. So there's a little bit of sound with this. It's mostly like background music and stuff, but it's kind of cool. So like if you wanted to see or show a patient how they could actually do this in a clinical setting, it's just a procedure video that shows one of the grossest things I could find. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a friend in high school who had to have this done. He smashed his finger, and he actually heated up a needle on a stove at home and did this, but pretty cool. And the last thing I wanted to point out is there are clinical calculators. Again, this might be more for like a PCM or like a clinical setting, but if you go back to resources, and there's other stuff here too that I don't have enough time to talk about all of them, but clinical calculators is a pretty cool one, I think. And again, we have other resources for this. We have, if you guys have ever used McGraw-Hill's Diagnosaurus, it's their differential diagnosis tool. But this is more, and there's also medical calculators available in that. But this one has some pretty cool, again, a lot of them are for cardiovascular disorders, but there's clinical, critical care medicine has several, endocrine metabolic disorders. I'm trying to look for one that looks familiar. Body mass index. I'm familiar with that. So we can just put in, height and weight, and it just gives us our BMI score. But there's all kinds of stuff here. I think there's pulmonary, maybe, hepatic and biliary disorders, immunology, infectious diseases. So I'm trying to look for one that I could. Trying to think. Let's say cardiovascular, cardiac output. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to put here. I guess that's hemoglobin, oxygen saturation. I'm not sure what all this stuff is. You guys probably know more about it than I do. But it's kind of cool. And I can see how these can be used. in more of a PCM setting or maybe in a clinical lecture. But there's some explanation of the equations used, and all you have to do is just input your data to get a score. And I'm guessing these scores mean something for diagnosis. So, but that's mostly what I wanted to show today. I know that's not a whole lot, but I think it's pretty cool for a free resource that we have access to, especially for the procedure videos and the audio, which I know we couldn't hear, but in the past I know that Dr. Pettit and others in SimLab have looked for sources of audio for students to hear what different like heart murmurs and AFib and stuff sound like. But that's pretty much it. And it's just a widget that's available. And you can search directly from this widget if you just choose professional and type in what you're looking for. But this is clickable, so if you click on that, it takes you to the main Merck site, and you'll choose professional to see the data that we're looking at today.
Oh, and they're good even just for, because I do the cardiac sounds with PCM 10 or 201. So even just putting a link to the site, they can go and just, we do some, they can listen themselves, which is really nice instead of even trying to embed them, Rod. So that's a really nice thing. I'll use that next year.
Yeah. I just thought it was pretty cool. And like I said, for me, I always knew about Merck Manual because my mom was a nurse and we always had one on the bookshelf. So whenever we had if we had a question, my mom would look it up.
I still use it now for some of my lectures, looking at clinical stuff.
Really?
Okay. Can you
Thank
show
you guys?
me?
This will be recorded and it'll be up on the